This is a brief video on how to do the research necessary to answer Exercise 1.1 in Environmental Law Practice, Problems and Exercises for Skills Development, 4th edition, by Anderson, Hirsch, Sachs, and Tormey, using free resources. Exercise 1.1 asks you to look at new source performance standards for a client in the lime manufacturing business. We'll start by looking for the controlling statutes in the United States Code published by the Office of the Law Revision Council, the people who actually decide where in the code particular laws should go. Their website is at uscode.house.gov. In the basic Search the United States Code box, we type New Source Performance Standards and hit Search. Our search pulls up 8 results in code order, and the section we want is the 5th result on our list, Standards for Performance for New Stationary Sources, 42 U.S.C. 7411. It's important to look at more than just the first returned item on a results list. Even if we changed our results to relevance order, our section would not have been first on our results list. Let's select that section and look at it. Whenever you use a code online, check the table of contents to see what nearby sections you may also need to read to completely understand that code section in context. On this platform, the code section itself appears in a new window, so we can use the breadcrumb trail at the top to figure out where to open up our browsable U.S. Code table of contents in the other window. There can be separate sections involving general and specific cases, or a definition section that applies to an entire part or subpart of the code, but in this particular case, Section 7411 is pretty complete. There is a Congressional Findings and Declaration of Purpose section that might be interesting, but for now let's just read Section 7411. Don't forget to check all of Section 7411 to determine which subsections will be relevant for our research. At the bottom of the text itself, within parentheses, are the statutory credits, which tell us when this law was enacted and amended. We can see that the Clean Air Act dates back to 1955, but this section was added by Public Law 91604 on December 31st, 1970. If we had been looking for congressional reports from 1995 or later, we could find them for free on govinfo.gov. Unfortunately, congressional reports from that long ago are not available on the free web. There are a number of subscription services like Hein Online or ProQuest Congressional that do contain older legislative history documents, but if you're researching someplace that does not subscribe to any legislative history resources, you may have to do this part of the research in books. In reading the statute, you should have found references to regulations that must be promulgated, so our next research task is to find those regulations. We'll do this in one of my favorite free resources, the ECFR, available at ecfr.gov. Let's start with the Simple Search page. We can look for words in the full text of the CFR, but given that the statute gave us precise language, let's be more precise in our search and run a search for Standards of Performance for New Stationary Sources within Part heading. 40 CFR Part 60 is Standards of Performance for New Stationary Sources. Unlike Lexis and Westlaw, which treat each section of the CFR as a separate document, the ECFR has documents that are individual sections, but also includes documents that are entire CFR parts or CFR subparts. 40 CFR Part 60 is so large that it is divided into 3 separate web pages. Let's start with the first of these pages, which begins with the table of contents. Subpart A begins with general provisions. We'll probably want to look at Section 60.1 Applicability and Section 60.2 Definitions. And looking further down the table of contents, we also see Section 60.14 Modification, which we will definitely need to read. In addition to the general provisions, there are subparts of this regulation that deal with specific industries. To find those that deal with the lime manufacturing business, let's run a Boolean search for Standards of Performance for New Stationary Sources within Part heading and lime within Subpart heading. Click on the link to Subpart HH to go directly to that subpart, which contains all the sections in that subpart. Taking the link above it to Part 60 will take us to the original, much longer document we already saw. Remember that we were told, in addition to reading the actual regulations, we might want to look at some of the regulatory preambles. The preambles do not appear in the CFR, but in the Federal Register, where this regulation was originally promulgated. Some Federal Register references are listed in the source statement at the beginning of the subpart, while other source statements appear in square brackets at the end of an individual section, like this reference at the bottom of 40 CFR 60.14, which says that this final regulation was published at 40 Federal Register 58,419 on December 16th, 1975. The easiest way to get an older Federal Register on the free web is to visit govinfo.gov and go to the Citation Search page. Select the title, Federal Register, from the top pull-down menu. Select the Federal Register volume or year from the second pull-down menu, then type in your page number on the bottom search box and click Search. You will be taken to the first page of the Federal Register issue that your referenced page appears in. Major rulemaking activities are published as severable pamphlets at the end of each issue, so the agency can send copies to interested parties. The page number referenced in the CFR is the page that the actual language of the new regulation appears on, which is preceded in the Federal Register by agency explanation, including response to comments received. We can see from the cover of this Federal Register issue that this rulemaking pamphlet begins on page 58,415. Moving forward in the PDF to page 58,416, we can see that the agency published its proposed rules at 39 Federal Register, page 36,946. Proposed rules can be important because that's where the agency initially set out its intentions in drafting the regulations. It is sometimes useful to read the proposed rules and explanation to see the agency's initial thoughts to better understand how the regulations were changed in reaction to comments received.